Hey everyone, thanks for coming back. How you guys doing? Well, before we get into what we're doing today, I finally caught one of those horrible flu bugs that have been coming around, and if you hear I'm a little nasally, my voice was raspy, and my kid got it, and then my wife did, and I was fine, and then it hit me hard, friends. I had full man flu on Tuesday or Wednesday, spent a day in bed, and finally back up to the land of the living. Moving kind of slow, but there's one thing I still need to do to the Cummins, you know, the Ram 3500. Anyhow, let's fire this thing up, and we're going to put a drive shaft in it today, a front drive shaft. Okay, we're in the truck. I'll show you, well, the last repair we did. It is really hard to film in here, friends, because we get a lot of sun here. Notice the preheater still works. Truck fires right up. The only difference that I notice is it doesn't puff white anymore when I fire it up. Okay, now it's just clean. I have a feeling that that's why it's important you have a preheater on these. For most scenarios, it has more to do with emissions than it does with anything else. And yes, it cycles, I don't know how many times. I'm still getting used to this truck. My power stroke, it will cycle, it will stay on for like a minute after I fire the truck up. And then it goes off, and then it'll come on, I think, one more time. My power stroke has a valve in the intake that'll open and close, kind of like a Jake brake, but it's not a Jake brake, to warm up. This thing, it cycles that sometimes 2 times, sometimes it does it 3 times. Oh, it's doing it again, so there we go. It just does its thing. Once this thing starts running for a little bit, it will fast idle and just do its thing. So it definitely, I started at -12 the other morning. It was cold, frosty. I decided to fire this thing up and drive it that day, and it fired right up, so no problems. Like, I foresee this being a good starter. My 7.3 is a grumpy old girl when it's cold out. Part of that is, that's just the nature of those motors, and part of it is, it probably is getting to the point where it needs injector cups and things like that. That's just the nature of the game with those. Once you warm that 7.3 up though, it runs beautifully. Anyhow, let's pull up to the shop, and not a big job today, but this is kind of the last thing I need to do to this truck, and then we will run this thing through winter and see what it's going to do. You see, it just continually cycles until it decides this motor's warm enough, which is kind of weird. I guess it's really good that I fixed that, because, well, this one runs more than anything I've ever seen. It runs a lot. We're at the back of the truck here, and I'll try and keep this as brief as possible, but this stuff's important. If you're interested in getting a diesel truck, friends, I look at as an investment. Yes, it is a depreciating asset, I understand, but if you buy a good diesel truck and you maintain it, it will last you, unless you're doing hotshot work and you're driving, 500,000 miles a year or whatever, 200,000 miles a year, 300,000 miles a year, yeah, you're going to wear that truck out. You can rebuild it again and again. But for the rest of us, you can literally drive this truck for the rest of your life if you're just using it around the farm, you're towing your RV with it. The biggest problem here, friends, is you can't keep bodies on them because I live in the Rust Belt. But I will fight the good fight with this truck and try and keep the body on it as long as I can. But for the rest of you, you're really, if you do your oil changes, your crank vents, your transmission services, you shouldn't really have any driveline issues with any of these trucks. Do your valve adjustments on a Cummins. I'm probably going to do this one in spring. I don't think I'll have time. I can hear it though. I hear just a slight tick. Maybe I got a rocker arm that's just moving a little too much. I can hear it. Probably most people couldn't, but so what you're going to run into is brakes, ball joints, tie rod ends, track bars, and drive shafts, okay? So this stuff here is the stuff that you're going to spend your time working on, because all that power, that, you know, that 400 horsepower and 700 foot-pounds of torque is going through this. And if you drive hard and you have a heavy foot, you're going to be doing this a lot. So remember that. Also, if you tow a lot of weight, you know, every time you stop and start, whatever you're pulling is going through this. So, but anyways, this is my drive shaft. I have not had this on my truck for over a month. I've been running this thing 2-wheel peel. That bit me one day. I did get stuck, but I managed to get myself out because I have another truck. But anyhow, I pulled this off looking for vibrations. When I put this thing in 4-wheel drive, I noticed that a vibration went away. Well, when I started to investigate, I noticed this front U-joint has play in it, okay? When I try and twist this yoke from that yoke, I can actually feel, especially when you turn it a little bit, there is play, which means this U-joint's no good, okay? Also, next, this joint right here, I could twist it. Okay, you can hear it. The teeth in there are worn. Now, you could cut these straps off or undo the bands and grease it, and that would be something you'd want to do. But when it's on the truck, I mean, if it's dry, it's just going to keep wearing more. Another big issue on this has a double cardan joint. It's a constant velocity joint. This has a ball and socket in the middle, okay, like this, ball and socket with a spring in there. It is greasable. Contrary to popular belief, there is a grease fitting right here. It is just not a contemporary grease fitting. You need, and I used to have one, and if I look in my toolbox, you know, in the dark corners of my toolbox from 25 years ago, I probably still have that. This was a common thing when I was a mechanic, when I was a teenager, you know, getting out of high school, to have that needle fitting, and you would actually grease joints like this. There's also a decal under the hood of this truck saying to grease it. Of course, nobody ever does, because, well, unless this drive shaft is located at the right angle like this, you really can't even see that fitting. You'd almost have to take it off to get the needle in there. So again, horrible design, Chrysler. I think you could have done a little bit better, but it is what it is. So this is sloppy, but it has tight spots in it, okay? This cardan joint, I can feel it. You can hear a click. There is a tight spot in here, okay? So this drive shaft has a lot of issues, okay? Each of these U-joints, to get a good quality one, is about $100. I also would need, to buy new yokes, because my cardan joint, the ball in the middle there, you could see it, it is worn out something fierce. So I would have to take this to a driveline shop and have it rebuilt. I may actually end up doing that, but the cost right now is kind of prohibitive. Again, I'm trying to get this truck reliable and to a standard that I can use it for what I need. Now, remember, friends, I do not daily drive this truck. So, but to get this rebuilt right now is, well, it would probably up here. To buy all the parts, and I've already priced them out. I mean, we're $600, $700, $800. So I'm kind of, and I'm looking on ChryslerParts.com or whatever, .ca, and a lot of these parts are not available anymore. So where does that leave us? Well, I bought this online. It's an aftermarket drive shaft. It wasn't the cheapest one. It wasn't the most expensive. What I noticed online is all these drive shafts, I don't care what brand name you put on it, they all look exactly the same, which tells me they're all coming from the same factory, probably in China. And again, it is what it is. Aftermarket parts seem to all come from China now. So I bought one. There was also like a Black Friday week sale on. I got a really good deal on this drive shaft. My idea is I'm going to slip this in here and I will run this for winter, and in spring we will revisit it. I'm not going to say that this shaft is going to be sturdy or last forever, but it will it will keep me on the road long enough that I can find, I'm trying to find a used factory drive shaft that I can work with and put U-joints in. I had one lined up. Unfortunately, that deal fell through. The fella said he had more, and I kept going back and forth with them, and it didn't work out. So it is gonna snow here any day, so I had to throw a shaft in this. And there's a lot of used ones around, but I'm having a hard time finding a good used one. So we're gonna rock this. Again, look at the difference. Now, I already noticed something in this U-joint. Like, friends, this does have a little spring to it because of the type of joint it is, but it's stiff, okay? It is stiff through the whole thing, okay? It is very, very, very stiff. So that's what you want. It's tight. Now, I noticed there are no grease fittings. There's no hole in this yoke here. So already I'm like, well, then this cardan joint is not going to last a long time. But I noticed something, and I think they changed the design. This rubber boot that's here, there's a rubber boot in here, friends, that goes around right there, okay? There's a cutout in there that looks like I could slip my grease gun fitting into there and pack that full of grease. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I don't see any grease in there right now, so I'm going to pack that full of grease with my grease gun. And then, friends, I noticed, here's the other side. This actually has a grease fitting on it. Again, nice and smooth. It's got a little bit of friction on it. It does have a grease fitting. I'm here nor there. The expansion, this boot is very stiff. This is going to probably be difficult for me to put on, but no play in the splines here. So, again, I don't know how well balanced this thing's going to be, but we're going to rock it. Now, I do notice, and I may actually end up making a hybrid shaft out of the two. We'll see. This yoke and U-joint, this U-joint is actually smaller than the one on my truck. Now, these trucks, and I mentioned this in my rear drive shaft video, there is so many U-joint combinations. I'm not going to say this is wrong, because I ordered front U-joints for my truck, and I actually got these. Now, I returned them already, but I'm not going to say this is wrong, but I bet you I could put my yoke, my bigger yoke with the bigger, this end yoke, with the bigger U-joint, and hopefully the splines are good on this end, and I can literally put that on from my old drive shaft on this one. But so anyhow, friends, this is what we got. I'm going to throw it in. I won't rattle too much longer, but this is what we're doing today. I got to get back on track. I spent basically a week just laying around. But yeah, we're going to do this today. Also, my yoke is loose on my transfer case. I'm going to crawl under there, and I'll video a little bit of that so you guys can see what I mean. I noticed the yoke on the transfer case, I can move it in and out just a little bit, and it's got a little bit of play here, but it looks like the nut is not touching the end. So I have a feeling that the nut over time has backed off, and that's why I can move it. So likely, if I have to, I'll make a shim. I'll take a piece of round stock, and I may make a shim or a sleeve that I can put behind the nut and then reef it down. But anyhow, friends, I'm going to climb under there, and we'll see if we can throw this drive shaft in. It's either going to work or it's not. I hope it works, because I need four-wheel drive like right now. Here's what I was talking about before, and I have showed you guys this. See the little rust mark on there? Well, this yoke here, it's got a little bit of play in it, and I noticed before that it looks like the nut might have backed off just a hair. So I'm going to make a puller. I'm probably just going to put a couple of bolts through here and use a pry bar in between them and see if I can hold that and just reef her down, and then we'll put the drive shaft on. Well, here we have it. New drive shaft installed. Jack up one tire off the ground and spin it, and then you can get it all your flange nuts. These are T40. You cannot get a socket in here. You got to use a T40 Allen key or whatever you want to call it. So Not the easiest drive shaft to take off and put on. Little bit tricky to get all these splines lined up. And then here's the other side. I had to clean out all of the threads on the yoke there. I was having a really hard time getting the bolts to start, and I couldn't figure out what was going on, and it ended up being that because those threads have been open, they had a bunch of gunk in them and old thread locker. So I put some oil on the bolts and ran them in and out with my impact gun, and they went in smooth. Okay, friends, I tightened everything up, and look at that. There's like nothing, no play. I can barely feel, there's just a little bit of flex here and just a little bit at the back there. Okay, this is a million times tighter than when I got this truck. And I thought it was funny. I got all these comments and emails about, oh, you're going to need a transfer case, and maybe. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not one to diagnose something unless I'm physically there. This stuff's fun to watch on the YouTubes, and I watch it, and it's cool that you guys watch the stuff that I put out, but, it's really hard to diagnose how much play is too much in a video. So I will keep an eye on this. One note, because I know somebody's going to mention this, be careful with any drive shaft, let alone an aftermarket one. I'm going to keep an eye on this and feel for vibrations, because if that lets go or this lets go, whatever end is not attached will spin around. This end will take out the transmission or the transfer case. This end will, again, friends, it can make a big mess. If you're concerned about your drive shaft coming off, they make a drive shaft cage that bolts here. Half of it goes here, and it has a groove cut into it, and then the other half bolts from the top, and it has a giant groove in there, so that if this lets go, it can't get outside of the cage. It won't touch anything. Cage is made out of 1/4-inch plate. I think I'm actually going to buy one because, well, the cage and this aftermarket drive shaft is still way less than a new drive shaft. So maybe we'll just go with that. Well, I figured I would finish this video laying on my back because it's fitting. I've laid under this truck quite a bit. Easiest truck I've ever worked on because it's also the tallest truck I've ever owned. Very easy to get under here. Yeah, friends, that's what I'm doing for today. Everything's been torqued, and I'll take this thing for a little test run. I don't foresee any issues, but yeah, I'm beat, friends. These new flues that are out in the last couple of years, they're sure powerful, I find. I'm definitely lacking in the energy department, so I'm not going to push it too far today. I think I'll call her a day. And I know most people are like, geez, if I was sick, I'd take the day off. But yeah, I'm not like that, friends. I have a really, really hard time sitting still. So anyways, thanks for watching. Take her easy, and I'll see you guys in a couple days. Later.